5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Should be fine. When you start off, I'm just going to adjust it for the first 10
Okay,
seconds.
thank you. What's your name?
My name is Omar.
Ayanna, nice to meet you, Omar. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome to Women of Color Lead the Way, building power on the ground and in Congress. Co-hosted by She the People and the Progressive Caucus Action Fund. I'm Liz Watson, Executive Director of the Progressive Caucus Action Fund, and we're so happy to be here with you today. We're excited to kick off our 2019 Progressive Strategy Summit with this event. We're celebrating the leadership of women of color in the halls of Congress and women of color fighting for change in their communities. In addition to the elected champions who you'll have on stage joining Aimee Allison here today, We are pleased to know that we are also going to be joined by Representative Sheila Jackson-Lee in the audience. And are there any other members who've joined us here? The lights are really bright, so feel free to call your name out if you're here. Okay. All right. So this much we know. Our communities and our country win when we follow the leadership of women of color. And I'm so pleased to turn it over to She the People's Aimee Allison.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you to the Progressive Caucus. We are so honored to be here because the country knows something we women of color have known for some time. That is, we are the core of the progressive vote. We are organizing on the ground, and we will deliver the White House in 2020. Here's what we're going to do today. We are going to be in conversation with some of the baddest, the most courageous, the most powerful leaders that we have that are driving the progressive agenda in the United States. And in this audience, we're going to talk to some of the baddest, some of the most courageous, some of the most skilled and effective advocates for the issues that we care about, those same issues that will get us to the polls, not just this summer, not just next summer, but in the November 2020. I want to give a round of applause, not only for the congresswomen who are coming up, for those who are in the audience from across the country today. We salute you. You are driving the progressive movement. So a lot has been said about the squad, and let me tell you, as the congresswoman who will be with us in a few minutes said, our squad is big. We're not talking about 4 or 5 people in Congress. We're talking about tens of millions of women of color working to organize a broad-based, inclusive, progressive coalition to lead the Democratic Party to victory. So I wanted to just thank you on behalf of She the People. We're going to do big things over the next year. And to invite on stage my co-host from our media sponsor, NowThis, Versha Sharma. Give her a hand. Woo!
This slush machine coming up that everybody can relate to, right? Is that my dog? Yeah?
You're good.
Okay. Hi, I'm Versha Sharma. I am the senior correspondent. It's not on. They said it's not on. You can help me.
Somebody flip her back. It's right in her back.
Why don't we grab this handle right here? How about now?
Yeah!
Let's try that again. Hi, my name is Versha Sharma. I am the senior correspondent and managing editor at NowThis. We are absolutely honored to be the exclusive media partner for this event with She the People. We are broadcasting right now live on NowThis platforms. We're very excited about that. NowThis reaches 70% of all Americans in their 20s every month. We have this incredible reach, and we're so proud to use this platform to elevate the voices of women of color, not just in Congress, but as Aimee was saying, in the audience here today. We know that our audience cares about some of the issues that we're going to be talking about, like climate change and criminal justice reform, passionately. And as a woman of color myself, I could not be more excited to be a part of this conversation. So let's get started.
Awesome. DJ, kick the walk-on music for Congresswomen Pramila Jayapal, Barbara Lee, Ayanna Pressley, Ilhan Omar. Come on, get on the pick. Look. Deb Haaland. What a walk-on song, all right.
Okay, great. of our audience questions today. Congresswoman Jayapal, I wanted to start with you. So women of color led the calls for the impeachment of Donald Trump. Congresswoman, I think it's that mic over there. Yeah, we need to get it away from the speaker. Should help. Okay. So Congresswoman Tlaib comes to mind. You yourself on the House Judiciary Committee officially called for inquiry to open a few months later, and obviously that's significant because of your position on that committee. Now I understand that there are some calls for this inquiry to be kept narrow to the Ukraine scandal specifically, but we also know that there is a sprawling corruption case to be made. So as somebody who's sort of led this call and partially led the inquiry, what can we expect from this? What's going to come next?
Thank you for the question, but first I have to say, she the people! And the Progressive Caucus Action Fund, we are just so thrilled to be here and to have this incredible group of people in the room with us. On impeachment, here's how it works. The articles of impeachment generally don't say Ukraine. They are usually based around a high crime or misdemeanor, right? So that would be abuse of power. It would be obstruction of Congress. It would be the emoluments clause. It would be obstruction of justice. Those are the kinds of things that would normally be the article. And as you might remember in the Nixon impeachment, obstruction of Congress was Article 3. So the way this works is Ukraine will probably, and we don't know if we're going in this direction, we don't know exactly how this is going to work, but Ukraine would still be a big part of many of those articles. It wouldn't necessarily be the only part, because this is a pattern of abuse of power that we have seen over and over again from this president in multiple ways. And so what we will do as we craft the articles, should that be what's going to happen, and you will see a lot of other things also brought in, but probably with a big focus on Ukraine, because frankly, it is unfolding right in front of us. It is easy for people to understand, and we need to make sure that we are really keeping the American people with us. Well, let me just follow on to that, Congresswoman Pressley. So much right now in public conversation and in the news is around impeachment and the misdeeds of the current administration. And yet, we know that a progressive agenda and a progressive vision is going to be what inspires people to actually go to the polls next year. What can we expect in terms of the leadership of women of color within Congress and the vision, given the fact that the dynamic in the Senate, the dynamic nationally, what can we expect in 2020? What can we be hopeful for?
Well, before I talk about why a progressive movement is so necessary, given the unprecedented times that we find ourselves in, I did just want to bring Elijah Cummings into this room. And the reason why I want to do that is because the progressive movement, to me, what is at the epicenter of the progressive movement is justice and the actualization of it. And Elijah Cummings was certainly a justice warrior, and he was very intentional about mentoring and pouring into, with his counsel and wisdom, many women, and certainly many women of color. So thank you, Elijah.
Yes.
And then I want to thank this visionary woman for creating She the People, and thank all of you for being here today. The progressive movement is certainly not about singularly what the women on this stage do. You are the progressive movement. We are here because of you. And I think if there is one silver lining, given the fire hose of insult and assault and attacks on our civil rights and civil liberties, by the hour, a new draconian, life-threatening, family-separating policy being rolled out, is that I think we finally understand that our destinies and our freedoms are tied. And so a progressive movement is necessary, and the role of women of color in that movement is the role that we played at the fore of every social movement. We are the table shakers. When we are at the table, we call to question different questions. And because we ask different questions, that changes the conversation. And because we change the conversation, that changes the policies. And so, my freshman cohorts and my peers, we owe a tremendous debt to Representative Sheila Jackson Lee and Barbara Lee and Rep. Jayapal.
Yes.
And all those who come before us to long-standing tradition of women of color in ushering in social movements and paradigm shifts. I think, right now there is this evolution in the movement in that we are centering the voices of the people and we are being intersectional. And so just really quickly before we hear the next question, I think this is really critical to the progressive movement. It's that our destinies and our freedoms are tied. It's centering justice. It's centering the people. And it's being intentional and inclusive in our coalition and in our movement building and intersectional in our policies. We can't talk about Medicare for all and not talk about transportation justice too, because access is not just about affordability. It is about quite literally being able to get to an appointment. So we can't talk about the racial and gender wealth gap and not talk about transportation, because we have to foster that connectivity for people to get to school, to get to a job. We can't talk about disability rights and justice when, I rode the MBTA in Boston with a transit a justice warrior. She's in a wheelchair. Her name is Diana. And we had to ride an additional 4 hours because of broken elevators and things like that. So I think it's about intersectionality and it's about justice.
Yeah.
And it's about the people.
Yes. Yes. We're really honored as in this opening event to have leaders from states across the country who will be coming up, telling a little bit of their story and asking questions. For those of you on the live stream, you'll be able to see them and hear them, and also the Congresswomen in response. So I wanted to invite the first person up, and please introduce yourself.
Hello.
That's good.
A little taller. Thank you. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
That works. Okay. Take the mic. That's right. Good afternoon. My name is Sakura Cook. I'm with the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights based in Washington, D.C. And I lead our work to transform the justice system. For the last 40 years, the United States has conducted a devastating experiment in public safety. As other nations prioritized investments and increased spending in social services and treatment, we prioritize and emphasize punishment over prevention and put our resources towards this carceral paradigm that has led to over 2.2 million people being incarcerated today. We know this hasn't worked and it has failed us tremendously. What actions would you take to reorient the nation's approach to public safety? More specifically, how would you prioritize federal dollars to support that plan? And would you agree to center solutions from directly impacted people?
Congresswoman Lee.
Oh, that's why we're here. First of all, thank you very much for that question. And let me just say, first we've got to crack that school to prison pipeline and direct our resources into schools, building schools, and a quality education, public education, rather than building prisons. That's the first funding priority we need to address. Secondly, we should disrupt and dismantle the private prison industry. As long as you have an industry that profits off of mass incarceration, whatever we do is not going to matter, because they are there to make money and the policies are going to drive the profit motive. So we've got to do that. Thirdly, there are some issues that we understand that really drive mass incarceration, and I'm going to raise one, and that is marijuana justice. We need to deschedule marijuana. We need to legalize marijuana. We need to expunge the records of all of those who have been convicted of marijuana charges. And we need to provide for a restorative justice fund. And of course, I have legislation, and my sisters here have supported the legislation to do just that. But we have to invest on the front end in terms of making sure that our young people have the education that they deserve, but also those who have already been victimized by unjust laws. We've got to help make their lives whole. We've got to provide a second chance, and we've got to put our resources into restorative justice efforts, job training, education, you know, all of the issues that we're addressing here today. Let me just finally close and just say to my sister Aimee, I am so proud of my constituent, Aimee, Allison, and she the people. Just so you know, I want to thank you. She's from, I say, the wokest district in the country, and everyone else thinks their district is the wokest. But I'm so proud of what we're doing here today. We were, many of us, at the first She the People conference in San Francisco, and so here we are, moving ahead. Nothing's going to stop us now. So thank you all, and thank you for that question.
I want to add one thing before we go to the next question. For the crowd, an observation in case you don't know, Representative Lee is the first woman and the first person of color to co-chair the Congressional Cannabis Caucus. So this is something that she's been working on.
And I don't smoke or drink.
All right, I believe our next question is for Congresswoman Haaland.
Good afternoon. My name is Danielle Atkinson. I'm the founding director of Mothering Justice in Michigan. So as I said, I'm from Michigan. And when I became pregnant with my first daughter, I found myself living my dream life, having my dream job, but the only problem was that I didn't have any paid leave. After doing the math, my husband and I realized that I would only really be able to take 4 weeks off without us really falling tremendously behind in our own bills. I went back to work, barely healed from giving birth and not emotionally ready to leave my baby. And going back to work meant searching for care in an unaffordable childcare system. For moms like me, we're stuck between not having enough money to stay at home with our babies and not making enough to pay for childcare to go back to work. I started Mothering Justice, an organization of mothers, to work on these issues of personal economy. We've been working with grassroots organizations all around the country to fight for bold solutions to the crisis on a federal level, on the scale of the problem. We're building a national grassroots movement, and in fact, Mothering Justice hosts weekly Mama Conversations, developing leadership of directly impacted individuals to have bold solutions. We know that Child Care for Working Families Act and the Families Act would be game changers in these areas. How do we work together to get issues that largely affect mothers, like childcare and paid leave, in the forefront of the political conversation, ensuring that they're the top priority for the future Congress and the new administration?
Thank you. Thank you so much. So as you were setting up your question, I was thinking about the fact that after my daughter was born, 4 days after I graduated with my undergraduate degree, I had to go back to work 4 days after that because I could not afford to not work as a single mom. Luckily, I was able to take her with me because she pretty much slept the whole, first 2 months of her life. But those early days and weeks and months are the most important in the lifetime of a child, and I can see that the time I spent with my daughter has made her into the woman she is today. So, and that's one of the reasons why I decided to co-sponsor the Universal Child Care and Early Learning Act with Senator Elizabeth Warren. Yes. Because child care is one of the most expensive things that we undertake. And it's so important to make sure that our children are well cared for when we need to go back to work or for any other reason. I feel like our priorities in this country are all screwed up. Because how much do we spend on private prisons? How much do we spend on incarcerating people and taking people down the wrong path instead of lifting them up in their early years when early learning is the most important. I volunteered at my daughter's preschool so that I could get a discount on tuition because it was that important to me. So I swept and mopped floors and pulled weeds in the playground and cleaned toilets in the preschool because I just felt that was the most important thing that I could do for her at the time. So we need to invest in our children's early learning. Yes, one of the most important things. And of course, we need to make sure that, that our mothers have an opportunity to take the time they need in order to take care of their children. So look, as a single mom, it's not easy. I know what it's like to be on food stamps. I know what it's like to piece together health care. I got my health care at Planned Parenthood during the time I was in law school because it was affordable and accessible. But this administration has worked overtime to cut programs like that help working families to succeed. And it's really time that we start investing in our kids. Elizabeth Warren's plan is to tax 2 cents on everything over $50 million. Yep. Right? Like, I think if you make $50 million, you can afford that. So, so that's how we pay for the things that are important to our country and the future of our children and our country.
Thank you. And thank you very much, Danielle, for your question. Let's keep it moving. Our next community leader coming up to the stage. She's on her way. I should have had a walk-on song for you. And this one will be to Representative Omar.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Yeah. Okay, my name is Janie Grice, and I'm from Marion, South Carolina. I worked at Walmart as a cashier and as a customer service manager while I was raising my son as a single mother. I'm here today as a leader with United for Respect to speak on behalf of the 1.4 million associates who work for Walmart. I started out at Walmart making $7.78 an hour at part-time. 4 years later, I was still part-time. Do you know how hard it is to pay your bills when you have no clue how many hours of work you're going to get or when you're going to work? In 2017, Walmart received a huge tax cut from the Republican tax bill and used that money to authorize $20 billion in buybacks that made the corporate executives and the billionaire Walton heirs even richer. Associates like me, who have been putting in the work day after day, year after year, didn't get to share in those profits. Even $10 billion of that money could have been used to give 1 million associates a $5 hourly wage bump. If I sat on Walmart's board of directors, I wouldn't think twice about investing those profits from the tax cuts back into the workers in the company. So I'm organizing with United for Respect to make sure that workers like me are represented on corporate boards. We need to make sure the corporations where we work invest in us and our communities, implement policies that protect us and our customers from mass shootings, offer good jobs and benefits, and rein in corporate power and profiteering. My question is for you. What will you do to make sure that workers like me have a voice at the top of our companies and in our economy?
Thank you so much for sharing your story, and I just want to say I 100% stand with you and the workers at Walmart. I think it is a moral outrage that we have the Walton family whose their net worth is more than 50 million Americans combined. It is important for us to make sure that we are creating policies to halt the pay hikes that executives get, it's going to be important for workers to have a seat at the table, and that's why we have the Board Act in Congress, which I am co-sponsoring, and that's the step. What I also know is that there are a lot of people who recognize that businesses that are that have owner employees, they get to invest in their workers differently because they understand what work looks like. And so you are right when you say when having workers at that board is going to mean that they're going to create the proper investments for the people who are working, who are putting in the work. And so that's why it's important for us to make sure that when we're talking about dignified work, that we are uplifting the people who are doing the work so that they can speak about what that looks like. There is no reason for somebody in the United States to be working more than 40 hours a week to put food on the table or to have roof over their head. I also understand that as a former union member, many of the rights that a lot of our workers have today came about because of the work that unions did. And that is going to be an important component because bargaining for fair wages, making sure that there is proper workplace standards, all of those work gets done when our unions are strengthened. And we know that right now they're under attack. And so I was really excited to not only co-sponsor and pass it through as a member of the Education and Labor Committee in Congress, but to also make sure that many of my colleagues are signed on and understand the importance of protecting our unions and pushing them forth. When we talk about democracy, we forget how undemocratic our workplaces are. And so I am committed, and we'll make sure that everyone in Congress is committed in making sure that we have democratic workplaces, and that everyone is uplifted and dignified as they do the work on our behalf of all of us.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for your work.
Congresswoman Omar, I have a follow-up for you. So speaking of workers' rights, it's something we hear about a lot from the Democratic presidential candidates out on the campaign trail. You recently endorsed Senator Bernie Sanders for president. And to young women of color in this audience and elsewhere, for people who are ready to support progressive values like they recognize in the Sanders campaign, but who also maybe want to be represented by somebody who is a woman or a person of color, why should they consider voting for Senator Sanders?
I think it's important, right? I talk about representative democracy and making sure that we have representation of all identities. But what I think it is important, more important than that, is to make sure that you have a representation that understands and has fluency in the day-to-day struggles of people that they seek to represent. And I believe that Senator Bernie Sanders has complete fluency in the struggles of working people. He has been someone who has fought alongside and for marginalized people in this country for many years. And I believe that he and I share value and a vision for the America that we all deserve, and will do everything that we can to build the movement that will get us there.
Mm-hmm. And we have so many amazing candidates in the primary. There's still a lot of time before the DNC. We in California don't start voting until February 2nd, but I'll tell you something. You may have 5 different presidential candidates endorsed by 5 different amazing leaders, and that's all right with the movement. Because the main thing is women of color's issues and the fact that we exist and we are acknowledged in every single one of the campaigns is the main focus. Because I'm going to tell you, after the DNC, we unite and we lead all the way to November.
That's exactly right.
I want to welcome our next community leader, to ask a question. I think this one goes to Congresswoman Jayapal.
Hello, my name is Mia Ives Rubley, and I grew up in Greensboro, North Carolina. I actually worked with the Women's March and founded the Women's March Disability Caucus. I'm very interested in disability rights, disability justice, especially from the lens as a woman of color. And as I was growing up, I've been both on private insurance and Medicaid, so I've seen sort of both systems play out in my life. And when I was in college, I was on Medicaid, and during that time, unfortunately, I had to use the service quite a bit because I had a fracture that wasn't healing, and so I had numerous surgeries, and then also needed a lot of durable medical equipment, whether it was wheelchairs and cushions and the like. And the main thing that I found when I was trying to get these services was running into a lot of bureaucracy. When I was trying to get a wheelchair, what I would have to do is literally go to my doctor, get a prescription, and then go to the DME provider, and then they would send me to a seating specialist. The seating specialist would then send me to a physical therapist. The physical therapist had to write a letter stating why I needed whatever equipment that I needed. And then they would send all that information over to the insurance company, whether it was Medicaid or private insurance. And then that would take a couple of months to get an approval process through them. And then they would send it finally to get the wheelchair or the cushion or whatever. And so it would literally take between 6 months to several years to get one piece of equipment. And I think the average timeline is about a year to 2 years to get a wheelchair. And then we have to wait 5 to 6 years to get a new one and then go through the same process over again. And then I also had to actually pay out of pocket to get a cushion because I waited for over a year to get a DME provider to approve or get approval from an insurance company. And by that time, I was having back pain and physical fatigue, and so I really just physically couldn't take waiting for the insurance company to provide it. And as a person of color, I know that a lot of times we face a lot of criticism from the medical community and a lot of bias from the medical community not believing that we need the services or the equipment needed. And so my question is you know, I hear a lot about Medicare for all, but my question is it really going to be for all? Is it really going to address these issues of bureaucracy and then also bias within the medical community?
Tia, thank you so much for the question, and nobody should have to go through what you went through. That is just the bottom line. Our healthcare system is completely broken in this country today. It is a system that is designed around profits and not around patients, and it is a mixture of so many different things. As you were talking, I was thinking, so you had Medicaid, then you had a private insurer. I bet you there were probably a couple of others in there as well. And so Medicare for All is a system that would provide health care for everyone. Comprehensive care, no copays, no private insurance premiums, no deductibles, and everyone is in and nobody is out. This is not going to be an easy fight. And the reason it's not going to be easy is because, as I said, the system as it's geared today is really geared towards for-profit insurance companies and drug companies. When you have a streamlined government system, instead of multiple insurance providers, you have one provider. And remember that the government programs have about 2 to 6% of administrative costs. Guess how much the private insurance companies charge for administrative costs? 25 to 30% of taxpayer dollars for all healthcare expenditures in this country go to administrative waste. High CEO salaries, $50 million to $85 million for a CEO salary when people can't get insulin, when people can't get cancer treatments. And so the way we've structured Medicare for All, and I want to specifically talk about folks with disabilities, because this is actually a big thing that we put into my bill in the House, and I want to thank my sisters on stage because everybody is on the Medicare for All bill. We added a component that actually is not in the Senate version, but it is specifically around long-term care, because we think that folks with disabilities and our seniors deserve to have the kind of care that is not provided today. So in our bill, we provide those long-term services, long-term care services, but we also say that the default for those services is community-based care, not institutionalized care. And so that is a huge part of this bill, and we have moved mountains with what we've been able to do this year, thanks to the movement, many of you in the room. We have, for the first time, been able to get 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 hearings in the House of Representatives on Medicare for All, first time in history. 250 economists have written a letter endorsing the bill. And to the racial justice component, we brought in for the first time a giant racial justice coalition, and we had a wonderful press call and conference about the specific pieces of racial justice that are in the bill, but also the ways in which we need to transform the system. We also need to make sure that we are getting diversity into our doctors, our nurses, all of our healthcare professionals. We need to make sure we're paying people well. Not all of that is in Medicare for All, but there are other pieces that we are also moving. So for example, the HEAL Act that Representative Haaland and I have put forward also goes pretty deep into how we make sure that immigrants as a whole are provided comprehensive care, that we take away the 5-year bar for health care. But Medicare for All is a fundamental change in mindset. It says that we want you to go see a doctor. We want you to have comprehensive care. We want you to have reproductive care. We repeal the Hyde Amendment because every woman deserves to have reproductive care. TikTok. We make sure that we have dental, vision, all of those things are part of Medicare for All. So we hope that addresses it, but it's going to take work to really get it done. Thank you. Thank you for your question. I have a follow-up from any of these amazing congresswomen on stage. This is what I hear. Medicare for All is gonna break the bank. Medicare for All is some kind of pipe dream promise. Obamacare, and those of us who are involved in the conversation around crafting that, is fine. So why are we pushing it? And it's a great idea. Sometimes I hear it's a great idea, but the Senate is controlled by the Republicans, so it'll never be reality. So pick any of those. Help us to understand what's actually possible.
You want me to take it? Okay.
I want any of you to take it.
All right. So here's the thing. How many times have people said, particularly to women of color, that is too big and ambitious, you can never get that done, you're naive, you don't know what you're talking about. Let me tell you, every big idea had people pushing it. To me, being progressive is being the first to the best idea that is right for justice. And that's what Medicare for All is. And we can go through every single one of those, but the reality is right now we have a system that costs us $3.9 trillion a year. That is going up to $6 trillion over the next 10 years. Medicare for All, in even a conservative estimate, is less than that. So why? Because we cut out all that administrative cost. And what you get for it is a comprehensive system of care. There are many more things, but I want to give my sisters a chance to take whichever pieces of those many arguments there are to fight back on.
Well, let me just quickly say, first of all, I introduced the first single-payer bill when I was in the California legislature. This was way back in the day. And so I want to thank Pramila and all of my colleagues here for doing this, because you never hear anyone who is Medicare eligible or a recipient of Medicare say, I don't like my Medicare. And I believe that Medicare for All really takes us to where we need to go in terms of universal, accessible, affordable health care for all. It takes the profit out of health care. Health care should not be embedded in the profit motive in terms of capitalism. And so I believe that we need to move forward. It costs a heck of a lot less. Individuals will receive more care, better care, and when you look at the Veterans Administration, when you look at those who receive Medicare currently, I can tell you one thing, they would prefer Medicare than to private insurance companies and private insurance health care. And I know that for a fact because my mother was on Medicare. My sister is disabled. She's on Medicare. Many of my constituents are on Medicare, and they encourage me to make it available for all. So thank you, Pramila.
Can I also just say, you know, a healthcare justice warrior who I really admire once said to me that, you know, keeping people unhealthy is just another tool of oppression. And you should not have to be wealthy in order to be healthy. Now, you know, I ran for Congress because I represent, or I lived in, and now have the honor of representing, one of the most vibrant, diverse districts in the country, and also one of the most unequal. That in a 3-mile radius from Cambridge to Roxbury, life expectancy drops by 30 years. By 30 years. So, you know, bringing into the room some municipal sheroes of mine, Damali Vido of Chelsea and Lydia Edwards of Boston, they reminded me of two things. One, progressives do bold things. And the second is, nothing changes if nothing changes. When people are rationing life-saving medication, EpiPens, insulin, a drug that is 100 years old and has increased in price by 400%, when people are paying their bills on GoFundMe pages, progressives do bold things. And I cannot believe that under the definition of bold, we have to put in parentheses, saving lives. This is literally just about life and death. That's it. The fact that my paternal grandmother, who I never had the honor of meeting, died in the 1950s giving birth to my father's youngest brother. And in 2019, Black women are still 4 times more likely to die in childbirth. So that is unconscionable. That is unjust. And here's the real rib. We can fix it. So if we don't, it is really just about a deficit of political will and courage.
That's right. Aimee, I'll just add real quick that my district has rural communities. I have Albuquerque's the largest city in my district. It's surrounded by rural communities. You go 10 minutes out of Albuquerque and you're in the middle of the desert. And there are communities who live in rural communities that have to drive, get up at 4 in the morning just to make a doctor's appointment. Right. So they can drive 4 hours or 3 hours just to see a doctor because they need to. So Medicare for All will give everyone health care, including people who live in my district in rural communities. And we need to make sure that rural communities are part of our country. That's and right. We need to care about them as equally as we do in our urban centers as well.
Yeah. And I want to hear from you, but I also just want to say the biggest argument that I hear against is what we got is okay, and or we can't win it because of the situation in the Senate. I would love to hear how the progressive movement, the congresswomen on this stage, and your broader coalition are going to help us actually win this thing.
Well, everyone told me when I took on the bill that we would never get a hearing in the House. And we've had 3.
Receipts is what you're saying.
Receipts. We have over half of the Democratic caucus now signed on. We have an incredible coalition, by the way, that also helped write the bill. So this was not some just top-down thing. We brought people together for 6 months. We sat with many of the groups that are probably in this room to help fashion something that would really serve the people. And so nothing, in my mind, there isn't anything that's unachievable. The question is, what is a path to get there? Do we have to take over the Senate to be able to pass Medicare for all? Yes, we do. Do we have to take over the White House to pass Medicare for all? Yes, we do. And yes, we can. But let's not be short-sighted and allow what we know to be right and our vision for justice to be clouded by sticking our finger up in the air and seeing which way the wind blows. Because let me tell you, our platforms, whether we're activists on the outside or we're elected officials on the inside, our platforms are actually to help explain, mold public opinion to the extent that we can, and build the movement that allows change to be created. I come from Seattle, and we were the first major city in the country to pass $15. Okay, $15 minimum wage. And it was because of the fast food workers in New York City and across the country that walked out on their McDonald's and said, we want this. But when that happened, nobody thought that was possible. People said, $15, that's too high. I happen to think it's not high enough. But we have to do that work and build the movement. And I just want to say that there are misconceptions being put out there on Medicare for All, including by some within our own party. And my question is always, can we flip the way we ask the questions, right? Can we say, why would you want to continue a system that leaves 70 million people uninsured or underinsured and takes away care from so many more, millions more, tens of millions more, and protect a private for-profit set of companies that are the only ones benefiting? So just know that when somebody says, and I fought for, when I was fighting for single payer back when the Affordable Care Act was happening, I was on the outside, and we sort of took as our fallback position the public option. As I have done this work, what I have come to public option, Medicare buy-in, all of these plans, they do not at all address cost, nor universality, nor equity of care between everybody who's getting the care, right?
That's right.
So you might be able to increase some coverage for people with a public option. Sure, you might be able to add some more people. You want to do a Medicare buy-in? Sure, you might add some more people by doing that, allowing an earlier buy-in age. But you have done nothing to affect the structural problem of a for-profit system that, as Barbara said, puts profits over patients. And that's what Medicare for All does.
Let's flip the script. Let's flip the script. Yeah.
But Aimee, let me just say, this is about political power, and that's what She the People is about. So it's up to us. We've got elections coming up, and it's up to us to hold our elected officials accountable, and we vote for them if they support Medicare for All. We don't vote for them if they don't. And so that's what we do.
That takes some people off my list, I'll tell you right now. Thank you. Okay, let's get the next.
I think, hold on one second. I want to say, right, because voting for people, if they don't support Medicare for All, is an important piece, because we know that the progressive agenda of justice is the most popular agenda with the American people.
That's right.
The support that our policies have with the American people is much higher than any of the other policies that the other side is pushing for. And so we just have to be confident in that and believe in it and push and demand.
Yes.
That's right.
You're up. You're up. Let's hear another question.
Since you all were talking about voting, this question is for you, Representative Lee. My name is Jasmine Wright, and I like to call myself a true Carolinian, being raised on the border between North and South Carolina. I'm currently the Piedmont organizer for Down Home, North Carolina, a multiracial member-led community organization working to build power for poor and working people in rural North Carolina. I want to talk to you all today because I guess growing up, I watched my mom as a poll worker, and she worked a full-time job, part-time. I saw her turn around and work the polls on Election Day. Watching her do that, I saw the faith that she had in the electoral process, and and I saw the overall importance of voting. In 2016, September of 2016, I saw Charlotte Mecklenburg police kill Keith Lamont Scott, which led to the Charlotte uprising. During that time, I witnessed thousands of people march to the streets, angry people march to the streets, and this was a 2016 presidential election. So I thought to myself, let me register my peers to vote. And from that, most of the response we got back was, our votes don't matter or our votes don't count. And after that 2016 election, I felt it to be true. A mentor of mine said, if you can't promise a legitimate election, everything else is secondary. These past few years, I've seen gerrymandering target HBCUs, splitting the voting districts in half. On election days, some of those students were told to cast provisional ballots and that they weren't going to count if they were even given a provisional ballot at all. In 2018, I saw elected officials steal absentee ballots in rural counties. I've also seen white supremacists put patrol precincts with guns, as well as actually block the polling precincts themselves. Black people of color are completely discouraged from voting, and I can't see why we don't understand why. People of color are being discouraged, and it hurts because I know we put in too much time and effort, and too many people died for us to still be fighting this same fight. I know we can't put all of our hopes into the political process, but I know it's at least one less black body laying in the street. If we don't try to change who is in power, we're never going to have the ability to win on our own issues. And I believe that voting is that first step. And I truly believe that if voting wasn't so important, and they wouldn't try so hard to stop us from doing it. So Representative Lee, what can you do to address voter suppression in the rural South?
Thank you very much. And you just laid out the story of everyone in our country who have been marginalized, who would vote for the progressive agenda, and who the right wing in this country want to suppress. Voter suppression is alive and well. So in Congress, of course, we have legislation, H.R. 4, that would restore the Voting Rights Act, because you know the Voting Rights Act was totally gutted. We also have hearings that are being conducted around the country, headed by Congresswoman Marcia Fudge, to really build the record so that we can move forward with even stronger legislation. But aside from the legislative efforts to restore the Voting Rights Act, we have to work at the state and local level in terms of making sure that these voter ID laws are not passed, making sure that we have, and we're into this next election cycle right now, monitors, lawyers, people watching the polls all the time. I personally want to ask the UN to come in. I've observed elections all over the world, and I think right now we need election observers from all over the world coming to monitor and to look at these tactics that you just mentioned, so that maybe if we put some sunshine on it, at least we'll be able to cast our vote until we can get all of these laws changed. But I would say to you, and I say this all the time to especially young people and people of color, believe me, your vote counts. When Donald Trump was elected, we're looking at 80-some thousand votes that elected him in key states. And when you look at the numbers of votes per precinct, I believe it was 2 votes per precinct that elected him. And when you look at who did not vote, people of color, young people, and so we have to really recognize the fact that one vote can make a difference. And I got involved in politics. I was one who did not believe in voting. I did not believe in the two-party system. I was never registered to vote, and I would not vote. And I had a class at my college, Mills College in Oakland, California, and I was required to work in a campaign. And I was going to flunk that campaign because I was a Black Panther Party community worker, and I believed in community activism, right? You weren't going to get me to vote, and so I was going to flunk the class. And that was in the day when all white guys were running. And so, as Black Student Union president, I invited Shirley Chisholm, the first Black woman elected to Congress, to come to my college to speak. I had no idea she was running for president. She took me to task. After she spoke, I went up and I told her, I know my vote doesn't count. And she said, wait just a minute. What are you talking about? You're on public assistance, aren't you? You are struggling with childcare. You have to bring your kids to school, don't you? You don't have any money for childcare. You're on food stamps, aren't you? Don't you want the opportunities that everyone has? Don't you want to dismantle and disrupt racism? I mean, she went on and on and on. So she convinced me at least to try to pass my class. And so I asked her, how do I get involved? The first thing she said is, you've got to register to vote. I said, no. And she said, and she shook her finger at me, and she told me that my vote and my involvement, and if I really wanted to shake things up, I better get in there and participate. So I went back and I talked to my professor. I told her reluctantly I would try to pass this class. And I would work in Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm's campaign because she is going to make me register to vote. But I just want to pass this class. But the more I learned and heard about Shirley, the more I got to know her, I was very excited about that. So bottom line is, I registered to vote. I got an A in the class. I went on to Miami as a Shirley Chisholm delegate, and the rest is history. And so I just share that story to encourage you and to tell everyone that regardless of Russian interference, okay, regardless of voter suppression that's taking place, we know that, and we're going to beat it back. But in the meantime, we've got these elections coming up, and we've got to beat it back by voting and by getting out and by having observers and by having our lawyers and by having the world look at what we're doing in this country and making sure that our democracy, and thinking about Chairman Cummings now, we're on the brink right now. We're at the defining moment, and we can't be the ones who take it over that brink in Elijah's honor. So thank you again very much.
Wonderful, thank you. Not only this, but just fun fact, She the People was crunching some numbers, and we figured out that when women of color's turnout at the polls is 3 to 5% higher than national average, Democrats tend to win. In 2016, women of color's turnout was national average. In 2018, we delivered the White House, or we delivered the House, the majority in the House. So our goal is to increase our voter turnout.
That's right.
Higher than average. If you see a black woman and you're walking down the street, shake her hand. Thank you so much for being the backbone of the Democratic Party. Our turnout is amazing. Asian American women and Latinas are also powerhouse, and together we can make the difference to overcome some of the pressures that we find in not only North Carolina but all these states. So I want to thank you for that question.
Wait, I'm sorry. I got to say two things really quickly on that. Please, it's important. People need to vote in every election. I think we're so focused, and this is the problem. Let me just say this. My mother was a super voter. We felt small, invisible, unseen, unheard for a lot of reasons, based on the zip code we lived on and our family conditions. But on election day, she made sure I knew we were powerful. I believed her. I still do. And when we evict and or impeach the occupant of this White House, we are going to be digging out from his hurt. And we are going to need leaders on the municipal and state levels. So we don't need you to just vote in federal elections. You need to participate in every single election.
That's right.
True.
Mi nombre es Anabela Aguirre, soy janitor, una mujer inmigrante, una mujer sobreviviente y orgullosa de ser promotora. He sido janitor por los últimos 19 años. Ser una mujer inmigrante, trabajar sola por la noche me hace vulnerable a un acoso, a un abuso. Una sobreviviente de violación y agresión sexual en el lugar de trabajo. Cuando traté de hablar y denunciar al supervisor que me había violado, me amenazaron y la compañía dijo que llamaría a inmigración y me deportaría.
My name is Anabela Aguirre, and I'm a janitor, an immigrant woman, a survivor, and a proud promotora, health promoter. I'm a janitor working on the night shift, and being an immigrant woman working alone at night makes me vulnerable to abuse. I am a survivor of rape and sexual assault in the workplace. When I tried to speak out and denounce the supervisor who raped me, I was threatened, and the company said they would call immigration and have me deported.
Y ahora puedo decir que de víctima sobreviviente he estado luchando contra la violencia sexual en el lugar de trabajo. Y creo que los trabajadores tienen el poder de transformar la cultura, pero no deberías despertar solo los trabajadores como nosotros. No deberían de ser responsables los trabajadores como nosotros y resolver el problema. Gracias a mi sindicato USWW que he podido empoderarme y ser fuerte y sentirme segura, porque sabía que a través de mi sindicato podría traer cambios y responsabilidades a empleadores.
I've been fighting against sexual violence in the workplace. Now I can say that I have been as a victim and a survivor. And I believe that workers have the power to transform culture. But it shouldn't only be up to workers like us. We shouldn't carry all of the responsibility to solve this problem. Thanks to the support of my union, USWW, I felt empowered and strong and safe to be able to break my silence because I know that I have a union behind me. And that with that, we will be able to make the bosses be held responsible.
Congresswoman Pressley, do you want to respond to that? I mean, in terms of protecting workers in her situation.
Sure. So first I want to say, for my friends that are Spanish speaking, they often tell me that Spanish is God's language. So I don't speak God's language, but I already understood what you were saying because sadly, trauma is universal. And so I know there is a language that we speak that is the same, and that is the language of justice. And I want to thank you as a fellow survivor. What you did there is not easy. It is triggering to tell your story over and over again. But the alternative, Audre Lorde reminds us that our silence will not save us. And so I want to thank you for sharing your story. And I know that you are going to set many survivors who have not even disclosed to themselves their own trauma on a pathway to healing because of what you just did there. And as far as the justice of survivors, that is one of the reasons why I ran, is to fight for the healing and justice of survivors. I am grateful for movements like Me Too and No More. However, the movement was not representative of every worker. And so I've partnered with my Massachusetts colleague, Representative Catherine Clark, and our Senate colleague, Patty Murray, to put forward a bicameral bill called Be Heard to ensure that survivors are heard. And a lot of people don't know that I was also a hotel worker for 6 years. And so I have dedicated my life to advocating for workforces that are treated as if they are invisible. And so the Be Heard bill includes protections for farm workers, for domestic workers. It eliminates tipped wage workers because of that unequal power dynamic and the fact that those workforces are overwhelmingly women who are in position to disproportionately, because of the power dynamics of being a tipped wage worker, to experience harassment. The Be Heard legislation also eliminates mandatory arbitration, non-disclosure agreements. These are all things that suppress survivor voice. It also provides wraparound supports for victims when they come forward. And then there's, in addition to the sexual harassment tenets, and just this one story I want to lift up because I said progressives center the voices of the people, right? I was haunted by a story of a domestic worker. Sorry. Her name is Adriana. And her employer repeatedly had her clean his home naked so that he would have assurances that she was not stealing from him. And I thought of all the mothers and the women like Adriana who endure indignities and injustices like that, how demoralizing. But she felt she had no other recourse for justice and no other means to provide for her 2 children, and subjected herself to that abuse and that demoralizing experience every day. So Be Heard is for Adriana.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jamelia Fairley, and I've worked at McDonald's for 4 years now. I experienced sexual harassment by 2 coworkers at McDonald's. One groped me repeatedly, and one made a horrible comment about my 2-year-old daughter, a sexual comment about her. In both cases, they faced consequences, but I was punished as well for speaking out. My hours were cut. I'm a leader of the Fight for 15 in the union. And Annabella is with the SEIU, United Service Workers West. And we are demanding change and safe for our environment, like for our working environment.
Yeah.
That's what we're here.
You got it. Thank you
Thank
also
you.
for
Thank you
sharing
so
your
much.
story.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Working on it.
All right, I just want to take a moment, if it's not, these amazing congresswomen are on stage, but there's other amazing women in the audience. Can I just have Representative Mary Gay Scanlon and Sheila Jackson Lee stand up and be acknowledged? We love you. We love you. Thank you for being here. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee and I were in Texas Southern University in April with the presidential candidates who came for the She the People Presidential Forum. I honor you. Thank you so much for all of your leadership. Okay, we're ready for the next leader to come on down.
Good afternoon. My name is Tara Raghavir, and I'm a tenant organizer from Kansas City, Missouri. I'm also a proud member of the team fighting for a national homes guarantee. In Kansas City, a full-time worker earning minimum wage would have to work over 90 hours a week to afford an average 2-bedroom apartment. Thousands of people live one emergency away from eviction and homelessness. One of those people is a leader in my base back home in Kansas City, a woman named Tiana Caldwell, who last spring, when she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, had to choose between getting cancer treatments or paying the rent. And Tiana chose to live, and her landlord evicted her. We allow people to die on the streets for the crime of being poor. In Kansas City, over 13,000 people remain on the waiting list for federal assistance. Meanwhile, big corporate landlords, many of whom are not based in Missouri and some of whom are not based in the United States, exploit our most vulnerable neighbors and extract from our communities. And Black and brown people in Kansas City face the hardest impacts of this due to our horrifying legacy of racist housing policies and practices. And of course, this is not unique to Kansas City. I could say the same about Philadelphia, Chicago, Reno, or any of your districts. So Representative Omar, my question for you is, how will you reimagine housing in America, the richest country in the history of the world, so that we can guarantee that everyone has a home? And will you commit to building millions of social housing units and reinvesting in public housing so that everyone can live with dignity?
Well done. Well done.
That is a really good question. I tell the story often about when I first came to America and how completely distraught I was to see homeless people sleeping on the side of the streets. Because I'd never imagined that I would leave a refugee camp, come to the United States, and the first thing I would see would be homeless people. And so it is a moral stain on our country. that we have 500,000 or more people facing homelessness, and that we have millions of people who are living with the stress, the worry of being evicted because they might not be able to pay for rent. In a few weeks, we are going to introduce our Homes for All legislation, which will hopefully guarantee a home for everyone by investing federal dollars in the creation of millions of homes. My legislation will hopefully also repeal the cap that is in place to building public housing and make sure that we are able to create more public housing. I also have legislation that is to help the 17 million people who live in mobile homes, who every single year risk losing their home, to make sure that they have a first right to buying the land where their mobile home is on, so that they are not going to end up being homeless. When we think about a home, we also have to think about a healthy home, the well-being of those people that are going to be in that home. So I am really excited about the legislation that my sister in service has introduced, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And we collectively in the Progressive Caucus, mainly this squad, plus few, are going to be rolling out a Homes for All package, each one of us, that will deal with many of the systematic problems that we have in our housing, that we have in our policies that lead to abusive landlords. Many of the problems that we have that is associated with incarceration and our public housing policies. And so I am really excited for the opportunity to work on these legislation and get it done so that we don't have an Ilhan that arrives in America and gets to see, have it be the first thing she sees, people sleeping on the side of the streets in a country where people come to seek prosperity and hope.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that question. I think our next question is for Congresswoman Jayapal. Come on up.
Hi. Thank you. My name is Tia Gindi. I'm a woman who... All right. Again, my name is Tia Gindi, and I'm a woman who lives at the intersection of being Black, being a transgender woman, and also being an immigrant. And I migrated to this great country 3 years ago, right? And after coming to this country where I hope to find safety, and coming from an African country that criminalizes LGBTQ people, I found myself in a country that also criminalizes safety again, in the sense that being an asylum seeker, most asylum seekers, predominantly Black or asylum seekers of color, are being detained in immigration detention centers for very long amounts of time. And while they're in there, they're being denied access to their health care, right? So that's some of the things that, personally, why I didn't end up going into immigration detention center, but then my community, because I also do community work with an organization called BLMP, which stands for Black LGBTQ Migrants Project. And most of the work that we do is to provide safe spaces for our communities, and also doing deportation defense work, and also working with institutes that are available or able to rehouse people who have been out of immigration detention centers. So working with that community that also represents myself, just like easily one of my major fears is ending up in an immigration detention center. And also working, because I also found myself going through homelessness in between New York and DC when I first got here. And I had to go through a transitional housing program. Successfully, I was able to attain a job, 2 jobs. I also work as a health impact specialist for the Department of Health, and also do organizing with the group that I just said. So what really brought me today here are the concerns of saying, with all the work that I do, the same issues that keep on coming is that predominantly black transgender people they keep on getting denied access to opportunities to work. But when they do attain work, they're still fired for being who they are or presenting as who they are. And when they are faced with that, most people are left with the option of forced to do survival work like sex work, which is also still very much criminalized, right? And also a major stuff that also comes with the being black or a transgender woman of color is the housing instability that comes with our gender identity as well. So my question to you is to say, what is the intentional work that is already being done or that you're going to do to ensure that transgender people of color, or more specifically transgender people who are black, they also have access to housing, they have access to healthcare, they're also getting freed from all sorts of imprisonment, be it in jails, prisons, immigration detention centers.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the question, for so beautifully articulating all the different pieces that come when you're at the tip of the spear. As an immigrant, as a black woman, as a transgender woman, all of those pieces. So a couple things. First of all, I am the very proud mother of a non-binary kid. And I think I'm the only member of Congress who at least has said that. I'm sure that's not the case, but it matters on a very personal level, and I've really been able to look at this issue from a mother's perspective as well as from an activist perspective, which was always the case. A few specific things. We have to make sure that we pass the Equality Act, which specifically provides. And you know, the House has passed this, so this is in the Senate, in the graveyard where things go to die with Mitch McConnell, but it won't always be. We will pass the Equality Act, and we will get protections, including in housing and all these different areas for LGBTQ folks. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we need to, you know, the Trump administration has rolled back a lot of protections that the Obama administration had around LGBTQ students, for example, around trans folks being able to serve in the military. And we need to take back the White House and take back the Senate so we can get those protections reestablished. On the immigration side, you probably know I've been working on immigration for 20 years, and I introduced, and I think everyone on the stage, again, is on this bill, the Dignity for Detained Immigrants Act. And this bill would transform our detention system completely. It would outlaw private for-profit detention centers, which should not be used. It would take, 56,000 people who are being held, asylum seekers, like you were talking about, who are being held in incarceration. They're prisons. They're not detention centers. They're prisons. And the vast majority of people have never been charged with a crime, much less convicted of a crime. And even if they have, those crimes are so level. They're mostly marijuana possession, actually, things like that. And so we introduce alternatives to detention. We say that if people get the resources they need, if they get the legal help they need, if they know when to show up for their credible fear hearings, if you're seeking asylum, that you don't need to be in a jail. You can be out in the community and you can get the supports you need. So that, the Dignity for Detained Immigrants bill also does that, but it specifically addresses trans folks as well. And it specifically says that we will have services designed for trans individuals who are being held. And it calls out in particular some of the health issues and some of the other pieces of, that we have run up against when we find trans women and men being held in detention. And so those are all, I think, a part of the system. But the final piece is these policies, many of the people that we have that are coming, and we just had a hearing on the Dignity for Detained Immigrants bill, and we had an amazing trans woman from El Salvador who came and spoke at the press conference. And when you have people who are escaping violence in their countries, often violence because you're trans, we need to make sure that our asylum processes are also completely revamped. It is absolutely unacceptable that we have Remain in Mexico policies, that we have policies at the border that stop people from doing what is their legal right, which is to seek asylum.
That's right.
It is absolutely wrong that the Trump administration has cut refugee admissions to 18,000. It should be 120,000, and I have a bill for that as well. These are...
By the way, that's tweetable. That's tweetable. She's got a bill for that.
These are not bold ideas. These are the ideas of justice and a country that values human beings, human dignity, and the right to opportunity.
Right.
And our immigration system is so broken right now. But I believe that the brilliance of people like you and the immigrants that have come over to this country on slave ships and to seek refuge, that is what has built this country. And we have to remember those values, and we're going to fight for them, and we are going to refuse to allow this administration to try to undermine, otherize, vilify, do all the things that they're trying to do. And we will, through our people's movement, get power again in the elections, but also in the streets, in the halls of Congress, to push forward the values that we know to be just.
And actually, Aimee, I just wanted to add, we were all very busy during the in-district work period, and it was a late night, and I didn't get to watch the equality debate. So I asked one of my aides, who won the equality debate? And they said Blossom. So what I want to say, no, because she did. And what I'm saying is continue to take up space and to create space for others. You know, the reason why we are making the inroads that we are making legislatively is because the transgender community continues to raise their voices. So, thank you.
Yeah. We're gonna go. We have a couple more questions. I just have to ask this group. You know, we have this unique moment in time where it's never been more clear the connection between movement and governance. Mm-hmm. In your view, and you started speaking to this, Congresswoman, but in your view, what kind of relationship do you have as a member of Congress, and what do you need from the movement in order to have the space to continue the bold kind of legislation, having a bill for that type of thing?
I got to phrase. What we need is equitable outrage. Again, you know, particularly as women and women of color, we are often given messages about, you know, not showing our anger. But there is nothing wrong with righteous rage. But again, we have to continue to underscore that our destinies and our freedoms are tied. You know, so, and we need intersectional solutions. Maybe for some folks earlier, my, underscoring transportation seemed weird because we're on the federal level and many of those decisions are made on the state level. But the reality is that for the inequities like in the Massachusetts 7, where in a 3-mile radius life expectancy drops by 30 years and median household income by $50,000, a lack of access to transportation that is accessible, rapid, and reliable has contributed to that. In the city of Boston, a black bus rider rides an additional 64 hours just based on waiting, riding, and transferring, and that is contributing to every other injustice. So what we need from the movement is that we have to have equitable outrage, do not create hierarchies of hurt. Let's not be territorial about oppression. Please. Okay? You know, what Representative Omar and I refer to as the oppression Olympics. Please. We need to be, knock it off. Seriously, hold space for everybody. Yes. Just be inclusive and intentional, equitable outrage, and remain vigilant, because the reason why we still have an ACA is because of the people in this room that laid their bodies on the line. It is not for the conviction of lawmakers, it's for the courage of everyday people. So keep showing up.
Good evening. My name is Dana Johnson. I'm with We Act for Environmental Justice. We were founded more than 30 years ago to address environmental racism in West Harlem, New York. Today, our mission is to build strong communities by ensuring that frontline and fence line folks, and by that I mean communities of color, people of low income, and indigenous populations, have a seat at the table in creating solutions that address environmental harm and other justice issues. We also convened the Environmental Justice Leadership Forum, which is an alliance of 40 EJ groups across 20 states, including Representative Haaland, your state of New Mexico. So there's a legacy of environmental harm in our communities that is being exacerbated by this evolving climate crisis. We carry the burden of living in a carbon-based economy, and it shows up for us as air pollution from emissions. It is food insecurity from extractions, and it's floods, it's droughts, it's heat waves that are associated with extreme weather events. I'm a native of Chicago, and we're known for our winters, but summer can be a beast in Chicago as well. I remember several years ago, we had more than 700 people die in a 5-day period. Most of them were people of low income and seniors who didn't have access to an air conditioner, and if they had it, they couldn't afford to turn it on. And so in the work that I do with React, I pay attention to what's happening across the country. And we see that same sort of sentiment rising in your state, in New Mexico, where there's predictions of droughts and extreme heat, extreme weather that's impacting the food system, that is impacting water. And I think in places across the country, we don't have the resources or the infrastructure to address it. And so our lives are on the line. And when you think about the work that you do, can you share with us how you are ensuring that communities of color, people of low income, and indigenous populations have a seat at the table in setting policy that addresses some of our historical harms, but also looks toward the future and ensures that we address climate change?
I was feeling like y'all should have been up here and we should have been down there. Thank you for that amazing question. So, you know, as you were talking, I was thinking about my pueblo of Laguna in New Mexico. We were the site of the largest open pit uranium mine in the world for 30 years. I mean, it took a while to dig that big hole, but all told, it was open for 30 years. And when the company left, you know, first of all, it was a social disaster because people lost their jobs all over the place. But they left, and then the uranium was just blowing around, right, for a long time. In spite of the fact that the tribe was fighting to get them to come and reclaim that land. And so it's an historic idea that Indian tribes whose land this is, you know, we didn't draw the boundaries around our communities, pueblos, nations, reservations. That was done for us. And a lot of times it excluded our sacred sites, which you all are familiar with, Standing Rock, I'm sure. That land was not within the tribe's boundaries, but it was sacred to them. So they have an obligation to protect their water source because it was given to them centuries and centuries and centuries ago. So we don't stop caring about the land just because we don't have a geographic boundary around it. Recently, we did a field hearing with our chairman of the Mineral Resource Subcommittee on the Natural Resources Committee. We went to New Mexico, along also with our chairman, Raul Grijalva, of the Natural Resources Committee, and traveled around to some sites where there's fracking happening. It's all on Navajo land. And when you look at these pipes coming out of the ground with an infrared camera, there's methane just spewing everywhere. Like you could just see it. You can't see it with your naked eye, but when you look through it with this infrared camera, you can see this methane just spewing out of the pipes, and you think people are raising their kids here. That methane cloud, you can see it from space. It's hovering above northwestern New Mexico. And so when I hear people tell me, but the gas and oil company, it pays for all the education. It's a revenue, bonanza for the state of New Mexico. But at what cost? I mean, at what point do you say all this money outweighs my child's health or my child's education? Because at the same time, all the methane spewing, there's big trucks in the middle of the road, and the school buses can't get past these trucks to take the kids to school. So like this problem it's exacerbated by so many things. And so one of the things that I feel like I've done, and through my campaign, yes, I'm one of the first Native American women ever elected to Congress in our country's history. But during my campaign, I specifically said I can't represent my own tribe or anyone's tribe, but what I will do is bring tribal leaders and folks to the table to talk about how they view things. And if they are a stakeholder in an issue, then they should have a seat at the table. So the first 3 hearings we had in our Natural Resources Committee and Subcommittee were all on climate change. They hadn't had a climate change hearing in 10 years in that committee or any of their subcommittees. So, and you know why. So during some of those hearings, yes, we've had tribal leaders at the table. When we wanted to find out why the Department of Interior, essentially condones the president, whacking out big swaths of our public land so they can open it up to gas and oil drilling because they can make a bunch of money off of it, we made sure that tribal leaders whose tribes practice their religion in Bears Ears and Grand Staircase Escalante and Chaco Canyon, they practice their religion there. The bones of our ancestors are buried in those places. And I feel very strongly, and I've said this in hearings, that they have to have respect for our culture. And so we need people at the table telling them that. That's right. Because right now, it's the money that speaks the loudest, and it's our job to make sure that the money doesn't speak the loudest. People need to speak the loudest. So currently, I have a bill, or we have a bill, Ben Ray Lujan and myself and our other colleague from New Mexico, Xochitl Torres Small, original co-sponsors on the Chaco Canyon Protection Act. That's to protect a 10-mile radius around the park from gas and oil drilling. Not one Republican voted for that out of our committee, just so you know. But
we know.
And they were trying to put amendments to shrink it and to exempt things. And, it's like, no. It's 10 miles. It's not even that big of an area. So we have that. Elizabeth Warren recently rolled out on October 9th her environmental justice plan. Environmental justice is a term that we need to use more of. Yes. When we did part of our field hearing that I just spoke to you about earlier, it lasted for 3 days. The first day we had stakeholders in Santa Fe at a round table, and one of the young Pueblo women who was there stated that missing and murdered indigenous women is an environmental justice issue. Because it is. Because women who are being abducted, stolen, raped, murdered, left out to die in the cold. A lot of times that is happening because of what's happening with these industries, these extractive industries. So we have a bill. We have bills for that too.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's all of those things and how they all tie together. It's not just our environment, even though that's a huge part of it. Because if we don't have our earth, we don't have anything. Not anything that we've talked about today doesn't matter because it's all gone. So we need to tie all these things together. And definitely missing and murdered Indigenous women is an environmental justice issue. And so at the same time, we're introducing and finding support for this legislation that we want to protect women's lives. We also need to protect our environment and just help people to realize that there are things that are more important than money.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you for your question. And we just have one other question left, and that will go to Representative Lee.
Hi, my name is Cindy, and I'm from Los Angeles, California. I'm a patient advocate with Planned Parenthood.
All right.
Come on, hi. We've seen relentless assaults on reproductive and sexual health, including access to abortion. When I was 19, I was just trying to figure out how to be out on my own. When I went to the doctors and learned that I was actually experiencing symptoms, not of a stomach flu as I thought, I was 7 weeks pregnant. My boyfriend drove me to my local Planned Parenthood where I had an abortion. The shame I felt at 19 having an abortion doesn't even compare to how I felt having an abortion at 31. During these confusing and terrifying times, Planned Parenthood really gave me the opportunity to choose what I wanted for my life. Outside of the walls of Planned Parenthood, there's definitely a sense of judgment I felt for years. If I spoke about this, people might look at me differently. We continue to see attacks from anti-choice politicians at the state and federal level, including the lifetime appointment of judges who have shown hostility towards abortion and reproductive health care. We've also seen this administration push harmful regulations to drive their own agenda, including finalizing a domestic gag rule over Title X, the family planning program. Mm-hmm. I have been a Title X patient and an abortion patient. So my question is, as champions of reproductive health care and rights, what more can you be doing to force Leader McConnell and the Senate to act to protect Title X and protect the access to abortion?
Well, Cindy, first of all, I just have to thank you for being here. Thank you for being so bold and so brave. I see you. I hear you. And I'll preface this, and I don't talk about this much, but I have to tell you this today. I had an abortion when I was 15. This was way before Roe versus Wade. And I'll always remember, first of all, I went to Catholic school, so there was no comprehensive sex education. So, we're working hard now for funding for teen pregnancy prevention and comprehensive sex education, because it starts there. But secondly, I didn't know what to do. And I was embarrassed until very recently to talk about this. And so your story is so important because so many women here and throughout the country have experienced what you've experienced. My mother her best friend was Latina. By then I was in California in the San Fernando Valley. And so my mother called her best friend in El Paso, Texas, where I was born and raised, and she said, send her to me. She took me to a back alley clinic in Juarez, Mexico. Fortunately, I survived. It was the best clinic around. But this is what they want to do to us. They want to take us back to those days of back alley abortions when women, young girls, women of color died. I was lucky. And so fast forward to today, and this is really hard for me to talk about, but I told you I see you. I serve on the Labor, Health, and Human Services Committee. And so we fight every single year for funding for family planning and Planned Parenthood. This year, once again, we did put language in the bill restoring funding for family planning. It's in the House bill. Now it's up to us, she the people, to get to Mitch McConnell and tell them that when this bill goes to conference, the Senate bill should have the language restoring family planning funding. So that's where we are right now, and I would hope that all of you would do that. Secondly, and I have to just give my sister here, Ayanna Pressley, and all of our sister friends, servants up here, the credit for this. But years ago, to get us to where we are now, years ago, the All Above All Coalition of young women around the country, and I have to just give them a shout out, primarily women of color, they came to me and they said, we've got to repeal Hyde. This is killing women of color. And I said, yes, we do. I was a staff person in '77 when Henry Hyde, I was staff to a great member of Congress who was a feminist, Ron Dellums. When you all remember Ron. And he fought against this when the Hyde Amendment was put into legislation. And I was determined then as a young staffer, understanding what that meant to low-income women and women of color, that one of these days, I didn't know how I was going to do that, but I was going to get that off the books and repeal the Hyde Amendment. I had no idea how, this was '77. Fast forward to the All Above All Coalition. We decided that we were going to push our Democratic caucus, which resisted us for quite a while, to introduce legislation to repeal Hyde. Every year it was, no, we can't do this for this reason. Okay, we waited. No, you can't do it for that reason. Okay, we waited. But I have to just say the young women decided that when we did this 5 or 6 years ago, now was the time to do it. And we were told that the repeal Hyde Amendment is HR, and I think it's 1692. So hopefully you all will help us build more co-sponsorship for that. But we were told we would only have a few co-sponsors. Well, we introduced it with 30 co-sponsors. And I want you to know that since my sister's here, and again, our Abortion Access Task Force Chair, Ayanna Pressley, we now have 171 co-sponsors, okay? Yeah, so that just shows us what women and what women of color can do, because that's what happened. And I had to go to the pro-choice movement, mind you, and bring the pro-choice movement on board with our movement for justice. And that's what this is about, justice for everyone, regardless of their zip code, their race, their economic background. And so I just want to encourage you to keep fighting, because we're going to get this done, and we're not going to let this administration take us back to the days of back alley abortions, or where abortions become where we have to do this in secret, and where we don't have the law of the land on our side as we see what's happening in some of these states. Finally, let me just say, we're not going to let Roe versus Wade be overturned. And that is critical in our movement as we go into these campaigns, because we want to make sure all of our elected officials support Roe versus Wade, support ending Hyde, support funding for Planned Parenthood, Title X, ending the global gag rule, the domestic gag rule, and all the issues around reproductive justice for all women. So thank you again very much.
Thank you. All right. How lucky are we all that we have our movement and we have our leaders. And this is what you get when you put a bunch of women of color. Some are in their first terms, some are in how many terms have you been?
I don't know, 21 years. What is that? 1998 special election.
We have OGs and we have people in their first terms. The connection that we have between our movements and our governance, our leaders, has to stay strong for us. And that's what we're doing here. Intersectional, nuanced, brilliant, personal stories. I just give a round of applause to these amazing, outstanding leaders. Okay. Yeah. Okay, now, we can't let you go without just a little teeny, we want here at She the People, because She the People is going to be continuing to build a national movement of women of color, and we wanted to give just a small token to our leaders here.
That's beautiful. Oh my gosh.
Our graphic designer from San Francisco, Kayla Smith.
From San Francisco.
And we want you to know that the women of color here, our leaders of the She the People movement, represent tens of millions of us, every state. It's not about red state, blue state. It's about the East. It's about the West. It's about the South. It's about the Southwest. And this, we are so grateful for your leadership and continue. And I want to say we have a gift for you. Those who are leaders of the Promotora movement, who are here with our posters. She the People brought some posters to share for you. And those of you who are asking questions, come on up here, because we're going to take a photo together.
Aimee, I want to take a selfie with everyone.
Oh yeah, take a selfie. Get your selfie game on. Meanwhile, let's bring up the women who asked the questions. Come on up here. We're going to get you in.
Aimee.
She wants to take a
selfie.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
All right. Also,
what do we turn?
Can we give it out to our sign language interpreters?
Thank you.
Okay.
We're taking a quick selfie.
1, 2, 3.
Group selfie.
Beautiful. Now, all the beautiful, amazing leaders face this way.
It is.
The posters in their hands are She the People posters. There's one for you too. Hold those up.
Yeah, that's great.
And I want to say that I agree with Congresswoman Haaland. Every one of these women who spoke the question could one day be in Congress. That is the point. There are 1,000 more of these great leaders that we absolutely need to cultivate and be. These are our special leaders. Thank you. A round of applause for all of our leaders. All of our leaders. She the People